good afternoon, and welcome to this wonderful Wednesday afternoon, the first Wednesday in the month of June 2021, and actually the 2nd of June. And we are really grateful, and I'm really grateful and thank God that we're here, and we're full of the life of God indeed. And God is, He's always faithful indeed. We have experienced the faithfulness of the Lord, and I know that we will continue by God's grace in Jesus' name. I hope that I've met you well in the comfort of your home or wherever you're watching me from on this beautiful day. I have been on a journey covering a very important topic for humanity, really, not just for Christians, but for humanity, but looking at things from the godly perspective and understanding that what we're about to talk about today is a God idea. You know, I've said when something is a man's idea, you can always better it, you can always improve on it. But when it's a God idea, you were not there when it all started. I don't even know how we can go and rewrite the story. Even if you want to do that, you need to be able to consult the originator of the saying. If there's any views, if there's anything that you want to rewrite about this. But we praise God that God does not make an error. He's not man. He's just God all by himself. He has no beginning. He is the beginning and he is the end of everything. So this afternoon I've got my guest with us, Pastor Eugene Adebayo, Ajayi, and we're going to be talking about making 5,000 marriages happen. Please help me welcome him.
Hello. Good
afternoon.
afternoon. Once again, Pastor Praise.
Good afternoon, Pastor Adebayo. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Praise God. It's been a journey, and I should say Happy New Month to you.
Happy
Thank
New
God
Month
for
too.
indeed for a new month. I've been on a journey for the past few shows that we've had. I've really been looking at marriage and relationships, really, because it's an aspect of life that is affecting humanity. It's not just affecting Christians or non-Christians, it's affecting humanity. And I heard a man of God say there's no Christian marriage, but there's Christians in marriage, because it's an institution anyway that has been originated by God, and it's a godly institution. And, we all get into it from different perspectives these days. My God, the things that I hear people say when it comes to marriage is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But we thank God. We thank God that we're learning from each other, and we are aligning our thoughts, back to God's original intention. But one of the things that I must commend is the fact that within the Kingdom Connection community, we have weekly conversations, not one, not two, but weekly conversations around relationships, empowering people, resetting mindsets, helping men and women to understand things from God's perspective, in as much as people have their own personal, desires and choices that they want to make around it. But tell us, how have things been happening within the community?
Well, it's for me it's exciting, because sort of work I love to do, and I think people are also excited at the prospect. I think love and marriage and relationship is what a lot of people talk about because we want it. So it's a basic human need that hasn't changed, even though society has changed. So no matter how modern we get, we still need that good old relationship. And of course, marriage happens to be a form of relationship. It's just relation. All of it, we are social animals, that he said. We want relationships. There are different kind of relationships. There are friendships. There are business ships. There are relationships. And there's also a relationship that we call worship. But we can talk about that later. So, but as an aspect of our worship, actually, the next thing that we step into as human beings is relationship, because we relate around the things that we give worth to. So people come together based on something common to them, a common identity, a common interest is common. But when people then come together based on the life that they have, the life that they live, and they want to spend that whole lifetime together, creating values around what they value. That's relationship. And the deepest form of that is the marriage relationship. And marriage itself is a process. It's not a wedding day. The wedding day is just a very small, tiny little pin drop on a timeline. The
Mhm.
marriage itself is a continuity of a conversation that leads to continuous agreement, increasing agreements, and that leads to a covenant between two individuals that causes them to create stuff that is way, way, way beyond what any one person could dream or imagine.
Mhm.
One person coming into this life can only do so much. But when we start to have the right sort of relationships and network together with other people meaningfully, we create value not just for the present but for the future. So it's been exciting, challenging people around these areas. I think it's been good that people do want it. I
Mhm.
guess what we're figuring out is how to help people take the right steps to participate in this. Because, of course, when we want 5,000 marriages, that means at least 10,000 people willing to take the step to
Yeah.
come into that marriage. And that involves a lot of training, a lot of coaching, a lot of creating the right environment, the right context, the right resources to make all of that happen.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You've nearly gone into the next aspect of what I was going to ask, because we have been able to identify issues, because it's not that people don't desire to get married, but we're realizing that there's a lot of issues that are being raised, maybe because not that culture is changing, but more people are being empowered. And the scripture says that knowledge would increase. And so while knowledge is increasing, it's kind of like working against humanity, because we are having so much insight into things that sometimes, people say, ignorance is bliss. It's not always bliss. It's quite costly. But there's an aspect, I believe, that God wanted to keep away from mankind so that we can really just enjoy life and He can take care of the rest,
Yeah.
But hey, there was an interruption. And so knowledge is not really hidden from people anymore. Everybody's talking, everybody has an opinion, everybody has a finding, everybody has, statistics, figures that they're working on, data. Everything is accessible to people, especially if you desire to find it out. But on the other end, we are discovering or identifying a particular, issue, and that is the one of the main issues that have been identified is the problems or the issues that arise in marriage, or people identifying the fact that really people that are getting married have not been prepared for it. So, in the society that we are in, the structures that we have, you don't just walk in and one day say, I want to become a doctor. It is a
That's right.
journey that even starts, from school, from 3 years old, from nursery. So they begin to prepare you. It's quite a long journey, like 25 years, journey. Sometimes people takes people 30 years of journey for them to really get to that place of qualification with experience, for them to, say, I am ready, I can handle it. But it doesn't happen like that with marriage, which we have identified is an issue. So, what are some of those things that, has brought you to this place of wanting to help humanity? As many people as you can help, as many people as the community can help affect, to solving this problem that has been identified.
Well, it's just I'm a scientist and have been for a while before I even went into medical sciences. And now I would say I'm sort of also a cultural scientist when it comes to companies, communities, what makes communities work. Of course, I have a leaning into IT, information technology, which is still basically the same thing. How do we make things work better? How do we make people work better?
Mhm.
And when you do all the analysis, eventually you come to a conclusion that, and I like to use the analogy of cake. When you have bad cake, don't complain, stop complaining about how terrible the cake is. Let's fix it.
Mm,
So we have to break down the cake and ask what happened to the cake? Why is the cake bad? Then we look at the
mm,
components. Let's say there are just two components, the egg and the flour and the water, maybe.
mm.
And then the way it's mixed, the way the process by which those things are interacting, which is what we call chemistry. So we
Okay.
basically have a compound of two or three or more components. So if there's a problem, let's not complain about the compound. Let's look at the components and the way things work. So when
Right.
you actually look at life, the whole problem of this world, whether you're complaining about Buhari in Nigeria, you're complaining about Biden in America, or complaining about Boris Johnson in the UK, or Justin Trudeau in Canada, all the problems of society can be traced back to two important components: man and woman.
Hmm.
That's it. When you break it down, the problem is us. So then, because, well, we don't have hardware issues, we have two legs, two eyes, two arms, we have software issues, which means the way we think is what's messed up. The way we are internally is messed up. So if we want to have a better society, we have to start asking the question, what is wrong with man? What's wrong with woman? Then thirdly, what is wrong with the way we relate? So if we don't fix relationships, you can't fix society, period. And
Hmm.
we try to fix every other form of relationship. We have billions of people on Facebook, billions of people on Instagram trying to fix relationship by looking good, liking stuff. It's not a helping anybody until we start asking the real question and asking how are we supposed to be, then how are we supposed to be with one another. And of course, the marriage relationship is a very special one because it not only touches the now, it touches the future.
Hmm.
If children grow up in a stable marriage, that is embedded in a stable community. Notice I've not
Hmm.
stopped at marriage. I'm also transferring to community. They tend to create a better future. But now we have men and women who are malfunctioning and living selfishly, living for themselves, not equipped to come into viable marital unions
Hmm.
and railing against that institution because they don't understand it, trashing themselves, trashing the children coming around. So it just makes sense to invest my time and energy in helping particularly Christians to unravel that mystery and to have as many Christian godly men. When I say Christian, I don't mean churchian, I mean people who are behaving like they were designed to behave by God. A Christian is not just someone who's religious, it's someone
Hmm.
who's behaving true to his nature as a man, true to his nature as a woman, of course, with God's help behind that. When we build relationships based on that, build marriages based on that, we're going to have a different kind of community. So that's the reason why I embarked on this. And it's done first to target Christians everywhere to say you can have better relationships. It's targeted to work with what already exists within the Christian culture, which is all our plethora of churches and ministries, to say, hey, let's work together so that we can all live better, relate better, and create a better world. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, it's answered some part of it. Okay, so there needs but obviously our internal is messed up, and so we need to get that sorted out. We also need to sort out how we relate with one another, and obviously there needs to be an environment for all of this to happen. What kind of environment have you, or are you looking to create, or have you created to achieve this? For better for people to be prepared appropriately for marriage.
What I've done in the last 6 years is more special. Of course, this all of this has taken over 16 years, particularly here in the West, that has taken this to not just in the UK, to America, to Canada, to Africa, and what's called, it's called Kingdom Connections. Basically, what it seeks to do is to facilitate people of like mind, like nature, connecting together meaningfully.
Hmm.
Everybody knows that the only reason Christian connect is if we go to the same church, you know. So we are not built or prepared to connect beyond the fact that we go to a particular church, we had a certain spiritual experience, and that's not going to help anybody. So the very first thing I did was to set up an initiative that helps Christians to at least be able to be comfortable around each other. So I created context and environment, first of all, for Christians to connect. I call that Kingdom Connections. The goal of that is to meaningfully connect Christians, at least 1 million Christians across the world. Isn't that
Okay.
great? So now, first of all, when we're able to at least help people to connect, and that takes a lot of social engineering. So it's not just, hey, come and have a party and go. There's a lot of things that goes
And go
behind
with
it.
the husband.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, don't just come in and go with a husband. You go with some transformation too. So you just come and change, meet other people who are changing like yourself, and who knows what you might discover on that journey. So it's an invitation to come first of all and to connect with one another. If you are already connected to Christ, then then you find comfort, and then to increase that connections exponentially. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what I often try to do is to work with Christians. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of wisdom um, to make this happen. Where I get people to connect with the kind of people they should be with, they want to
Okay.
be with. to create that context. Why? It's because I've noticed that, um, first of all, there was a lie that we all believed that the number of women is more than the number of men. Is a lie. It's just that in societal context is disproportionate. In church, there's more women than men, and there's a reason for that. In society, the number is balanced. Well, there are more men in prisons anyway.
Mm,
There are more men, who go to different other places, who hang out there, who are just not in the context. And even though we see men and women mix every day, their social contexts are so diverse that they do not mix. So
mm,
context engineering is part of what I do with the team that I work with, to make sure that we're thinking about who should be where based on a lot of factors. Then content engineering, which is what are people thinking? A lot of people are just messed up in their minds, and we don't even know that we're messed up in our thinking about life, about relationship, about purpose, about values.
mm,
So we also create an environment where people's minds can be challenged and changed. So it's continuous, it's very intentional. People are being challenged. Of course, this has produced, as several marriages, and that I've even stopped counting really, but as the last count from very direct effort, we've had over 25 marriages, and people are still become marriages. So there are systems that are set in place, there are courses, there are coaching, there's counsel. So what I do is to string all of these things together to create better Christians, to create better relationships, but we're very, very specific. 5,000 marriages means we're actually helping 10,000 people. To help 10,000 people to occur, when we hit the 5,000, there'll probably be another 20,000 about to happen. So it's just to create a cascade effect and to rebuild people's confidence in that institution and to give people the tools. And to that effect, there's a book that has been written, and you know about it, Navigating from Hello to I Do. There's more in the works. There's Navigating from I Do to We Do. So the approach that I take is not just a one-off, like many of my brothers and sisters who will say, "Hey, come for an event, come a prayer, and then you get married." You get married. We do that too, but much more. We're looking after the Christian life and relationship up till the time you end up in the grave. So when you
mm.
get married, you're still within that circle growing. And those who are connected, who are married, we want to connect them so that they can have a commonwealth of communities where they are connected together, they're able to transact, they're able to identify one another, and
Mhm.
together they're able to also take care of the children that comes from those produce so that we have a better society. That's just the way for things to go. So there's the events that we do, there's the programs that we offer, there's the services that people have access to, and all of the support to make all of these things happen. So that's what makes it work. That involves a network that spans currently 4 continents, both of those who are providing the service and those who are receiving the services. And we intend to scale that. We want to see more marriages, from someone from Canada getting married to someone from Spain, someone from Spain gets. We want to begin to crisscross that culture and to make sure that the baseline is Christ, and projecting that value to the rest of society. I believe that is the next frontier for society.
Praise God. Thank you so much. You remind me of a saying that I always, refer to, a woman of God saying that when many a times when people want to get married, they look within their circles and within the four walls. But when we really desire that and pray about it, God is looking at His kingdom. So you just mentioned somebody connecting from Canada, somebody connecting to Spain, because God looks at His kingdom and connects His children. Obviously marriage is for a particular purpose. It's not for our own selfish desires. Another thing that you've identified, I was listening to a conversation yesterday, and the out of the conversation was they made a reference to statistics that we have more single people in church than before. I think it was said that previously they had more married people in church, but now you have more single people in church. And it's not that those people that are there, who are single, do not desire to settle. They do desire to settle. Some first marriage, some second marriages. It's interesting when women who are have had been married before, when they speak about marriage, it's almost like they've never been married before. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But the point is, people do desire to settle, and so there's more single people than married people. And you've mentioned about the fact that there are more women than men. Not that there are no Christian men that are single, because we are discovering that they are showing up, that there are Christian men who might not be in church that are single, that do desire to get married. But in a community like this, It gives you that opportunity to know who is who, to be able to be connected, people that you might not have access to, because, you know, of our limitations and where we do fellowship. But I also wanted to ask, what's the difference between yourself and a dating agency?
Well, a dating agency will do some of the things that we do, because some of those things seem pretty much like common sense, but it doesn't. Okay, for instance, there are four key things that we help people to correct. If you want to have a Christian marriage, you need, well, I know you did mention earlier that there are Christians in marriage, not Christian marriage. I actually think that a Christian marriage, we can talk about that later. A Christian marriage is one that the marriage itself, the people within it, practice kingdom principles. So Aquila and Priscilla's marriage is a Christian marriage. So you can think about that. So there are different kind of marriages. There are buy one get one free marriages. Just marry and just follow the script of Babylon. Then that's a marriage with two Christians in it. But there's a kingdom marriage that is based on divine purpose. So there are not many of those around, but they exist. So let's say if we do want to have,
Not many of those around, but they do exist. Okay.
oh, yeah, there are not many of those around, but they do exist. There are some people who are like power couples in the spirit. They are wholly given to God. They are like what God intended for Adam and Eve to be in Eden. That is a Christian marriage. Not many of them, and that's what I believe people should aspire towards. But most people don't want to aspire towards that. They just want to get married, have children and be happy. But that's good. We cater for that too. So, uh, so bottom line, I feel that the there
Sorry,
are.
sorry, sorry. I you just said something there. I should have asked when you finished. So, should every marriage? Obviously, I think the answer should be yes. But what is really stopping people from really having a Christian marriage? Because you just mentioned that, you know, not many of them are there because people just get married to just settle and be happy. That's a very okay. I'll pause on that. Carry on.
Okay, don't forget that. I'll definitely address that. So, why are we different from a dating agency? The dating agency works like any other sort of enterprise. People have a need, and then you
Mm,
step into it, you try to study it, and then meet that need, but usually not at the depth of what is actually required to make any meaningful change on society, on the persons involved, on the future. It's just like you want to date, come, we help you put some algorithm together. You boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and they do that. It's just a business. What I do is different. I'm a messenger to God's children, as I'm
mm,
also one. I'm someone who feels that humanity should function in a particular way. So for me, it's a call. It's not just an enterprise. It's the fact that society and humanity is not created to function the way it is. So I want to do something about that. And of course, as part of doing that means there are some aspects of helping people to find who on what they're compatible with and come. So, but even what will you class as the dating section of our services is a lot more robust, because once the dating service we look at, okay, what you want, how you want it, where you are, and you can actually get married. Because you see, to get the marriage is actually not a big deal. Boy meets
mm,
girl, boy decides to marry girl, that's a marriage. That's the basic level. What they're helping you to do is to at least find somebody that you can have a relationship with and you can be quote unquote happy together. What we are doing is involves that, but we are taking it deeper, plowing deeper into the root of your person, your personality, your purpose, so that you are having a marriage that matters. By the end
mm,
of the day, you don't just get a marriage, you also make very, very nice friends with other Christian people who are on the same journey together. As you are growing together, you also realize that you can. There's some people, for instance, that we've helped to marry who just moved to an area of England, a set of families, they have young children, they have been networked to then work together. And whatever work has been done on them is going to transcend into the future. And we're still watching over that. So there's no dating site that has a time for that. But I've got time for that because God cares about people. So some of our aspects, I would say dating sites will probably do about 5% of what we offer. And part of what we're hoping is as we grow, it's not to competing against anyone. We're hoping that all the plethora of people out there who do dating services or praying for couples to get married and co, hopefully can work together for this one cause. Maybe then we can now increase it to 100,000 marriages. Because when we try to work in silence and we're not thinking in this way, we do not actually benefit the people that we want to serve. Sometimes just want to meet in it, give them bread and go. But we actually want to transform lives, transform culture, stabilize society, want to do so many things at once. So this offers a lot more. It offers community, it offers support, it offers coaching. The term of engagement is not just get a marriage and go and then pay a subscription. We're looking after the whole process, to ensure that we achieve something that we're all proud of, which is a better society.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And, one of the things that you've also highlighted is the fact that many people don't know the Christians, in their local neighborhoods, locally, which really, should aid even connections, what you call unique connections. Sometimes, people meet people in different places. There's no one particular place that you would meet someone. But we know traditionally people meet at weddings, people meet at social gatherings. But there have been a lot of situations where people have met outside of those circles. But what you do, you establish, create those opportunities for Christians to meet. And I know that there are things that are in place at the moment to get that going again. Thank God that the lockdown has been lifted. But I wanted to ask, all the things that you have really talked about, do people see the need for it in their lives?
I think that because I also have a background in business, I have done a lot of things. I still do a lot of things. I realize that in a market always exists for a product or a service. But what happens is that if people know that they have a need, but they don't know how to define the need, they don't know how to go after it. Sometimes people know they have a need, they have defined the need, but then the solution is not available. It's not easy to find. But a good situation is when there's a need, there's a definition, and there's a service available, and then we can bring all of that together, which means information needs to be out there for people to recognize that they even have a need in the first place. Now, the information that has been out there has been corrupted. So basically, if you watch a lot of Hollywood movies and you read a lot of Mills and Boons, what it definitely basically tells you is this: all you need to have a great marriage is to have a very good, glamorous desire for what you want your wedding day to look like, and just have this fantasies of what you think happily ever after looks like. So you come to marry with that image, the man comes to marry with that image, the images clash, the monsters inside reveal themselves, and then they fight, and and they realize that you are the fault, it's my fault. Whereas what has happened is you got a wrong information. You have been sold the wrong product. So a lot of people do not feel they need it because they have been given the confidence that they have it. So when something is going wrong, they don't look to themselves. They don't think, I don't think I know about this thing. Because something's telling you you're doing well. You're a successful man. You're a successful woman. It's her problem. It's his problem. So most people don't know they need it. And that's why you find out, aside from what we're doing with 10,000, 5,000 marriages, we're also engaging 100,000 couples. Now, that may not be on the news, but those that we're engaging do know we're engaged. And that's because a lot of people who are married don't actually have a clue that they need help. Because as far as they're concerned, we're married and we're looking good on Instagram. People are liking our pages, but they don't realize that they're malfunctioning. Seriously. So most people are not aware of what they need, and including even those who come for the 5,000 marriages, most people don't actually know what they need. They know what they want, but they don't know what they need. They feel all I need is a man. All I need is a woman who can cook. That's what they think. But they don't know that they need someone who can complement with them at different levels of their being, their spirit, their soul, and the body. But these are people who don't even know what their soul looks like, what their spirit looks like. So they are not aware of who they are. They know what they do. I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, and I make this much money. So, and I'm a fully grown man because I can make babies. So what? But they don't not really know themselves to a point where a man can look at a woman and say, you are the bone of my bones, which is the deeper construct of me, you align with it, and the flesh of my flesh, the external construct of me, you align with it. Most men don't know themselves. Most women don't know themselves. Now, and this is what I've tried. When I've been able to groom a group of women in this thinking and they knew themselves beyond the fact that they looked beautiful, beyond the fact that they looked sexy, but they were exhibiting virtue, they became more attractive to men. So men will walk past the hot and sexy ones, the steamy ones, and go straight for this woman because they saw a quality that something inside of them is saying is more valuable. Same, I began to see that as I work with some certain men, and they began to have a sense of purpose that was not defined by how much money or the width of their chest, and they were exuding the confidence, the knowledge of purpose. Suddenly, women were thinking, I want that one. This one's got money, but this one's got something. So it's really about helping people to see what they need. So part of what we do in that environment is we create an environment where people can ask those questions, and when they are ready for change, we offer them change, because it's not change you can force on people. People are adults anyway. So it's basically, usually when I start my meetings, I like to shock people. I tell, hey, you guys are here because you want to get married, right? And say, yes, pastor. I said, well, there are two kinds of marriages you can have. There's buy one, get one free. You can have something meaningful. Choose one today. Then they choose the blue pill or the red pill. Then I tell them, okay, if it's the good one, everybody wants the good one, right? Then I tell them, well, I'm going to have to work with you. There's going to have to be some deconstruction we need to do in your brain and about how you see life and perspective. Are you ready for that? If you're ready, let's go. And every single person who's committed to that has been happily married. Period.
Can I? Yeah. Thank you for that. I just wanted to ask. I mean, we know that not everybody is really set for this. You have some people who might have been there and they've just thought, okay, I've been there, done it, got the badge, or the T-shirt, experienced it, and now I think it's not for me. Okay, but have you been at a place where you have really brought reality? Because we do have to deal with truth and reality about a lot of things. We've been at a place where you've brought reality that, okay, maybe the reason why it didn't work was because you did not have this kind of mindset,
Oh,
you
yeah.
did not have this kind of
All the time.
content, you didn't have this and that and that. And after you've laid it on the table, the person said, you know what, I'm not willing to put myself through all of this just because of a man. I'm not willing to put myself into all of this because of a woman. So I think I'll conclude from this that I'm not built for this. Have you had such situations?
Yeah. I haven't had. What I have is people wanting to eat their cake and have it.
Okay.
Yeah. So bottom line, most people at the heart level will desire companionship, deep
Okay.
companionship that
But
defines
they
everything.
still want it their way.
They want it their way. So here's a
Right.
woman who says, I've been single for a long time and I've been used to running my own life. Can I not have a man that does XYZ? And I say, Susie, nah, that man also has needs. What if his needs are XYZ, ABC? What do you think about it? Oh, I didn't think of that. That's my job to make you think of that. So there are different kinds of men you can want, but most men will not fit into that bill. So you have two choices: remain single or make some changes. But they make a choice by not making a choice. So it's not by force. My job is to make sure everybody knows enough to make the right choices and they're not deceiving themselves. But nobody has actually said, nah, I'm not doing the marriage thing. When people know the truth, they desire the best. What I've done more is with some men who feel I don't need marriage, but it's because of, like you said, bad experiences. And once you reason with them and give them the facts, nobody wants to grow old and lonely. When you think of legacy and why we exist here is to leave an imprint on the world, the fact that you go to the old people's homes, there's a lot of people there who did great things 50 years ago. They're abandoned there. Nobody remembers them. Even if you're reading a piece of paper that they did that, they're there, forgotten. So, and when you now realize that through relationships, you can build things that last. You can actually enjoy this time. Everybody wants that. Then the next question is, okay, how can I have it in such a way that doesn't destroy my life? But ideally, God
Okay.
created relationships to multiply impact. One shall put to flight 1,000 to 10,000. But there's a way you need to know how to multiply. Multiplication doesn't just happen. There's a how
Yeah.
to. So if you don't know the formula for how to leverage on that, definitely you will feel it doesn't work. So I don't think I've seen someone who's gone through and I've had a chat with them who now says, no, I don't think it's best for me. Because you see, life lived not the way God designed it is very stressful. It's not the way we struggle. You look at how many even single or double parent homes that we have. The parents are struggling because we've lost that element of community. So we're
Mm.
doing the work that a lot of people should share together. It's been done by two or even one. It's not the way it's designed to be. It's very distorted kind of living. So I don't think I've not seen anybody who said, now I know I want to do my own thing. Even if they do their own thing, they're still seeking after that thing. They're still probably going around with other men and other women trying to convince themselves they can make it work. But ultimately they realize laws are made to make things work better.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for that, Mr. Bayo. In addition to the question I've just asked, we know that it's not a sprint,
Now,
it's a marathon, and there needs to be the willingness to make the adjustments. Every time I talk about adjustment, I see the tailor or the dressmaker doing some cutting, and making sure that it does fit, and making sure that the excess is taken off. Sometimes they leave a little bit of room just in case, so there's a lot of you know putting it on and taking off and making sure that this is going to work, that is required. And it's not a law, like 12 rules: do this, do that, do that, do this, because one cap does not fit all. We're aware of that. But talking about it from the point that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint, what's the average time that it's taking you to get somewhere from what you call before hello, to the altar? I do.
well, I'd say typical time, what the average time has been around 2.5 years to three, but I worked with a couple 7 months from hello to I do before. But the 7 months one relied on the fact that there was a momentum already built. So there were already other couples within who have worked. Because the thing about human nature is once people see other people doing it in the way they want it, it becomes easier because they are reference points. So the shortest time had been 7 months from hello and then to I do. But that's because the people who said hello to I do had been around the program before they even said hello to one another. They had been shaped,
Okay.
their thinking
Okay,
had
so
been,
they had been listening, they've been
oh, they
taking
had been listening.
information in.
Yeah,
Right,
they had
okay.
they had been on the program for men and women before. Because really,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we deal with the components and we deal with the chemistry. So
Mm.
we have a project in place that supports and helps women to challenge themselves on their womanhood, and to dig deeper into what it means to be women and to strengthen that perspective. And the men are doing the same. So as they're getting better and better at being the kind of men and women they feel they should be, and then the network, it makes for better relationships. So they had been around. So, but when this guy said, but even though people have been around, many times it take at least an average of 1 to 1.5 years for them to understand how their chemistry could be. Because the hello to I do is just really understand our chemistry. What temperature should we put on this on? What kind of ingredients should we add to it? In what circumstance should we use this? So it's really about understanding how will these two pieces make a bigger whole. They need to know what they're doing. It cannot be built around emotions. It has to be built on wisdom. The why, the hows, the when, the what, the ifs, the oofs, the who's has to be there. So, but it took them because these guys had already been reading Hello to I Do. They've been talking to people about it. So when they just started, it was easy for me to just coach them through. So 7 months from Hello, we helped them through the stage one, stage two, step three, help them through the planning of their wedding, and bang, they're married, have children now.
Okay, so it still did not really take 7 months. It took longer than that because they had been around.
They had
So
been,
how,
yeah, they're fully
yeah.
professional.
So how long had they been around then, to the place where they now wanted to start this intentional journey?
The lady had been around me for 5 years actually, and the
Ooh.
gentleman had been around for 1 year, 5 months. But you see, the thing with men catch on really quickly because men are people of principles. Here's the principle: if you work it, it's going to work. Okay, really, Pastor Bayo, let's do it. So and so it works better. Ladies take a lot more time, as you know, to transform in thinking, and that's because ladies process things in a more complex way than men. You process it logically, you process it emotionally, you process it circumstantially. So she's been around longer and been in a network of women that many of those people has been principles have been baselined. So she had been around, and I think that helped a lot because it's a lot of times hello to I do many times depends on the woman.
Mm,
Women are the
mm,
ones who are more resistant to changes, internal changes. Women is always
wow.
constantly negotiating, but can I have this way? But Pastor Bayer, can I? So I said, I'll give you an instance. I told a particular lady, I said, you have to seek a man or a woman beyond. Some men do this also, so it's not, just like a man thing. Because this particular question, I get the same result. So I tell people, it's one of my sessions, I said, choose a type of person. If I give you a really, really cool man, a really good looking woman, I put a picture before them, but these gentlemen don't have the values or the internal virtues that are important to make you happy. It's known to you. And I give you another man who has the internal virtues to make you fulfilled in life. He's the kind of man should be. But this man is 4 foot 5 inches, or this lady is 4 feet. Then you see their eyes go like, oh, but Pastor, can we have both? Can we not? So, and what I want to point to them is that internally we negotiate with the truth. So many times you find out that for men, a man can come to a point where he can make a decision that, okay, from today I'm going to do X. It doesn't work like that for ladies. They actually have to feel their way out of that position into the next position. So the engagement processes for the woman is a lot more, complex. So I would say a woman who's been around for 3 years probably equal to a man who's been around for 1 year. That's what I found out. So, well, this gentleman had been around. In fact, he got saved about just that 1 year, 5 months before, and it was just like, okay, what do I need to do? Bang, 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 and that was it.
Wow, amazing. You just reminded me of a conversation that I had with someone. I really did not expect myself to say what I said to her. Because at the point in time, there was a lot of emotions that were not in alignment, with settling. And I just said to her, listen, if a proposal comes to you right now, you better say yes and hold on to it. You might not feel like it, but if it does come, just in case it does come, don't reject it, because there will be a day when you will feel like it and you realize that you should have said it, which is what really sometimes puts a lot of us as women into problems, because we walk by our feelings,
Exactly.
and not, by thinking about things constructively. And it's a point that we must take into consideration, because I mean, people say love does grow, so probably at a point in time when that conversation is brought your way, because there is no feeling at that time, it's rejected, it's shut down, and they're not counted, like, I'm not ready. And then when the moment does come, because I think one of the conversations we had the other day had to do with seasons of people's lives. That there are times when people have been in the season where people have been attracted to them, pursued them. The women have really boasted about it, that there are 5 men calling me, sending me texts. They have not responded to any of them positively. They've just used it as something of pride. I must be, and then all of a sudden, just because you have not made a decision at that time to respond and focus on one, they then end up missing out on that opportunity. And then they go through a process where it's like, oh my God, there's nobody looking at me, nobody talking to me. They forgot that there was a season of plenty, that they did not respond to because of whatever emotions that was in their minds. But yeah, so that just reminded me of that. And we've also spoken about the fact that it's not an overnight thing. So as we're listening to this, one must be prepared. If you're a woman or man, you must be prepared. A challenge that I identified yesterday in another conversation is that a lot of people when you're dealing with a younger mind, it's a lot more easier to make adjustments, because you're not being established like that. Some women have bought properties, they've had to get on with life because they've had to get on with life. And so how can one begin to consider making adjustments that will be required, even though you might have been, so established, you got to a place of comfort, all of a sudden it's like your world is turning upside down because you do want to get married?
Well, that's why we have the program we call the eligibles, because what I find out is that there are a lot of single people. What they are not is there are not a lot of eligible people. So an eligible bachelor, an eligible spinster, we think they just means they look good, they got great makeup, got a great car. That's not what it means to be eligible. To be eligible means you're ready not just to mingle, you're ready to couple with someone. You have what it takes in the right way. There's no point trying to make cake and then the flour is still in Aldi or Tesco. So the flour needs to be on the place where it can be used. It needs to be made
Mm.
ready, weighed. So you may have all these potentials, but you have not come to a point where those potentials are being understood and put forward in such a way that it can create something beyond yourself. So such people
Mm.
have made themselves, but they have not been made ready to become something. Because when the Bible says the two shall become one, that means there must be an interaction that happens, and there must be something that comes out on the other end that is not either of both of you, but it's made by both of you, but it's something totally different. So
Please,
people
can you
need,
explain that again? When it says two shall become one.
okay. So actually that's covered in the transition program we call I do to we do. Because many
Okay.
people only walk to the point where two people walk together and they say, I do. And then they don't realize what to
Mm-hmm.
do to come to a point where they are we do couple, where they have become totally blended together in their purpose, in their life. They have become a unit of value on their own, spirit, soul, and body. They are
Mm.
operating as God designed man to operate from Eden. So very few people at that point, but it is something that can be coached. So most people just come in, just like you put pepper and tomatoes together in a pot, and they think they've become stew. So that's
Mm.
how most marriages are. So you have all the ingredients in the pot, but they are not mixing. The tomato is still trying to be as much of a tomato as it was before you came to the pot. The only thing is it's inside the pot. The pepper also is trying to be like the pepper. In fact, sometimes the pepper can mash itself up, but tomato says, just drinks the pepper up and says, I'm still going to be a tomato. So they are not actually blending in a way that produces something. You can blend pepper together, but you have to cook it to make a particular kind of stew. So
Mm.
every marriage is a particular kind of stew. So, but when you come in, you don't even know what you as an ingredient, you don't know what you bring in. Most women come to me and say, Pastor, this is what I want. They actually are the ones that need the helpmate. The man must be able to cook, must be able to clean, must be able to do this. I said, okay, I've seen that. The man also is looking for a washerwoman. He must be able to do this, do this, do this. I said, really? So they have not come in with an understanding that I know I'm an ingredient to make this kind of stew, and this is what ingredient I am. And I need this kind of ingredient to work with me. So that when somebody comes that is a good ingredient for another kind of dish, but it's not your dish, you can say no to them, even though they are great. So when we think of compatibility, it's not just the person I like to be with or love to. That's so cheap. It's somebody I should be with that I can create something meaningful for the kingdom of God together that will last for eternity. So not a lot of couples who said I do ever get to we do.
Mm.
Not a lot of people.
Mm.
Most people
Mm.
don't even know that even exists. It's like we're married now. What's the next thing the Joneses are doing? Let's have kids. Oh, great. We have two or three. What the next thing the Joneses are doing now? Let's go for holidays. What a cheap life.
Wow. Okay, so how can we register for the eligibles? We're listening, and somebody says, "Okay, what is it going to take me? What do I need to do to get on on this program?" Because let me give it a try. Let me give it a try. I've tried it my way; it hasn't worked, and it's just unfortunate that it's when things are failing that's when people realize that they need help. But life is not really planned like that. We are given help even before we get to the place of failing, because God has put us in, environments where we are guarded and guided, and nurtured and, groomed. So we don't, a child is not born and say, okay, so what do you have to deliver for me? The parent knows what they need to do to help that child become better, but it then gets to a place in life when we now think that indeed we have achieved, we know it all, and then we get into an environment and realize that we're not equipped for, which is what we're talking about marriage here. And I don't know who gave people this this ideology that just get in there and make it happen, make it work, whatever way you need to make it work, just make it work. And if you're having problems, just keep it between yourselves and try and work it out. I just don't know who really presented life to us like that. because that's why we're seeing the failures all around us. But yet you have a car that is functioning properly. You have a business that is functioning properly. You have other things that are functioning properly because you're seeking help. But the one main thing that should cause us to thrive in those areas, we are not seeking for help, which is really unfortunate. But anyway, so somebody now is getting to a point that I've tried it. I've been in 5, 6, 7 relationships. I've not been able to get to the altar because I've really been an adult that sometimes have misbehaved, been behaving badly. Or I realize that I need help, but I have not really been able to get the right help that I need. Somebody's listening and they're thinking like that. What do they need to do to sign on or to come on this program so that they can get the right help to achieve the end result that is desired?
Well, first thing, and I like what you said, maybe we might use that as a slogan, try another way. If you've tried your way, it's not work, try another way. I like that actually. First thing is, whoever it is that is listening to this and we're interested in helping those who really want and need help. It's not just a free for all come. This is not a money making venture. It's to really help people who want help. So you have to be at a point where you've decided to try another way. First, make that decision in your heart. Don't just say, let's just come and see what these guys are saying. You're going to hear it. You're going to clap for me that, yeah, it's a very good program, but it won't benefit you if you're that kind of thinking. You have to believe this is coming from with proof, and it will work if you decide to make it work. You understand? If we all decide to work together, we can begin to network and connect with you with men and women who at least you want to be with, and then you can decide if you guys want to marry, of if all of the people are together, they can pick themselves. So first, you have to want that change. Secondly, you can go to kingdomconnection.cc, and there will be a place for you to register for the eligibles. So if you're single, if you're courting, if you're married, you can connect to the eligibles. It's that you benefit from the same sort of support, the same sort of community coaching council. So go sign up for the eligibles, and someone's going to get in touch with you. And we're going to once you start coming in, we will do some conversations, just see where you are at and the type of person you are, who you need to, who kind of people you probably are already around or you need to be around, and then we engage in some services, some programs and some events just to kind of begin to increase your network and your understanding and to just get on the process. So the next steps will be get on kingdomconnection.cc and find that form and register. If you're having trouble doing that, I'm sure you can contact Pastor Praise, and she'll be willing to help you. I'll be looking forward to seeing those of you in the next batch of the eligibles. And we're also going to plant kingdom connections in every city. God willing, the more people we have, the more we're going to bring events that constantly brings you together with other like-minded, solid um, children of God. God bless you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Pastor Vaya. God has a plan for humanity, and He really does want us to flourish. He really does want us to prosper. He wants us to enjoy what He's given to us. Because at the end of every conversation like this, I do remind people that there's no marriage in heaven. And so it's an institution that God has created while we are here on earth to enjoy. One last thing I would really like to ask you, because if we have identified this issue, we've identified that there is just, an issue between men and women. What do you think about having like roundtable conversations? Or is that part of the Kingdom Connection
Oh, yeah, it
meetups
is.
that we would involve, where we just come and have roundtable conversations? Hey guys,
Definitely.
what is it that you guys are looking for? What is it that we're not delivering? Hey, ladies, what is it that you guys, you ladies are looking for? How can we really work together? How can we really, make this thing happen? Because there must be a willingness. Can two work except they are in agreement? What do you want to say into that before we finish up for today's
Definitely,
episode?
we have that. So, like I said, it's what we do in Kingdom Connection is everything that we have all been trying to do, everything that works. The only thing is that we're not cooping it up in a very small ministry or a small church. What we're doing is opening it up to Christians everywhere, so that we can build relationships beyond our churches, our ministries, and stuff. We can build it in life. And I had to say that because you might think, oh yeah, we do that in my church too. Yeah, we do it probably with the few people that's there, but this is really scaling it up so that you have access to other people beyond your church. Because most Christians will think, oh yeah, we do that in my church too. Well, if that works for you in church, that's great. But we do have those forums where we get men and women to engage and learn together. In fact, most of the times that we've done it that has most impact is we take the eligibles on a retreat together. So when we did that a couple of years ago, it was actually the first one. I'm sure other people have done it, where we took singles away on a retreat with one another, and nobody was bothered. But of course, these guys have spent 6 months already getting to know one another, learning, changing their mindset. And all the key things that we do when we're in that space is because we want them to start to learn to see one another beyond what they've been taught in life. So in life, we're taught once you are 15, 16, you start to see the female as an object, sexual object, same. We have not really learned to live as brothers and sisters beyond the brothers and sisters we grew up with at home. And most of our relationships at home are dysfunctional anyway. So we are warped in the way we see. So we create an environment where people from a different aspect within that community come together and they have conversations. And those conversations never stop. You've been around. Can you count how many conversations we have in a month alone? So those conversations always happen, not just for those who are pre-marriage, also for those who are post-marriage. We get the men to come together, the women to come together, to realize that your husbands are not from Mars, neither are your wives from Pluto. That some things are general, some things are specific. You were in such a meeting yesterday where I got one of our key contributors to come in and to deal in such a place. So we always do that. So we deal with the generic issues. We also help people to understand their specific scenarios, the specific man you're with and co. So we facilitate all of that. There's a lot that goes into that, including those sort of conversations, so that you understand it's not just textbook, it's application that leads into life. That's something you can apply, that you can see yourself growing and brings fulfillment. So yes, we do that a lot. A lot of that is involved in what we do.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor Bayo. There is the link if you're watching the interview on Facebook. I have posted the link to the Kingdom Connection um, website so that you can log on to that and just state your interest, that you are interested in the Eligibles program. Also, just one last thing, there is a Telegram group that we have on Telegram with Kingdom Connection community. If you'd like to be a part of that community where we carry on these conversations on a daily basis, it's a community of Christians. And we do what every Christian does. We pray. We have relevant conversations, not just to do with relationships. By the way, we have conversations to build up you as a Christian to a place of maturity. We look at how we can also affect the world. But in the process of all of this, it gives you opportunities to meet people and have better relationships and better connections. So please feel free to also join that group if you would like to, and let's get going. Pastor Bayo, who is the founder of the Kingdom Connection community, has been with us today. You've heard what he said. And one of the things that I really commend about him is the fact that it's not just talking about the problem. Many times when we as Christians come together, we talk about the problem. Even people, as normally would talk about the problem. I mean, we know how to break down the problem. I know what it is, but when it comes to solution, not many people are thinking about how we can solve the problem. I know it can sound quite daunting because no one can save the whole world, but within the space that God has put us, we can make a difference. And that difference would have a ripple effect, and it would keep on going by the grace of God, until bigger impacts are made. So as you're listening today, we have presented a solution to you, not just a problem. And if you desire, better relationships, better you, do feel free to reach out and let's get going as Christians. You're not limited to where you are. Because like you mentioned, the 1 million Christians that we're looking to connect is a global connection. So it's not just for one place. We have people who connect with us from Africa. We have people who connect with us from North America. We have people who connect with us from Australia. So it's a wide range, and we're looking to extend our reach as well. If you're there and you're a Christian and you would like to connect with other Christians, in God's kingdom, do reach out. Let's get to know you and let's get talking. And if you're single, you just never know what the Lord will do in the process of all of this. I want to leave God's peace with you. He is the Prince of Peace. The world does not have peace to give to you, but God has a peace that passes all understanding. Just in case you're in a relationship and it's been very difficult, you are experiencing, turmoil, I release God's peace. But I also want you to know that there's some problems that can be solved with you taking action. So if you do need counseling as well, or maybe some kind of support in your marriage, do reach out to us. We also offer services along such lines by the grace of God. Until I come back your way next week, know that marriage is a God idea and it's not man's idea. So let's align ourselves, align our desires with that which God has ordained for us, and we would enjoy and flourish in that. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you, cause his face to shine upon you. May this month of June cause you, may you enjoy the days of this month of June in Jesus' name. Until I come back your way next week, help us to spread the word and tell somebody about what's happening in the Kingdom Connection community. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.